everybody, and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Logan Blackman Show. I hope you all are ready to get learned up today. I hope you had a fantastic week, and I hope you all are ready to have another fun, exhilarating episode of the Logan Blackman Show. Hit your eardrums, into your brain and skull, and all that great stuff. But before we get into all the exhilarating stuff we got to talk about today, let's make sure to go over to the housekeeping items first. Make sure to follow the Logan Blackman Show on every single form of social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can find me on Twitter at Logan_Blackman. Instagram's Instagram account is The Logan Blackman Show. Facebook and YouTube, search Logan Blackman Show. Make sure to like and follow the Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Mock Draft 3.0's video will be out on Saturday, so make sure you subscribe to make sure you catch that. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give a rating out of 5 stars on both and leave a description down below why you feel the way you do. Also, make sure to check out the Believe in Iowa podcast as well. We haven't done anything on there in a while, but still make sure you subscribe so whenever we do post, you are ready for it. Both on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can also find on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok there as well. And the blog post, LoganBlackmanShow.com. Mock Draft 3.0 is on there. That came out on Monday. So make sure you go and check that out. Okay, so let's just go over that again. Mock Draft 3.0 came out Monday. Show's coming out today, Wednesday. The video will be out on Saturday. So we got a lot of different things covering the mock draft for you. But the NFL draft is only a few short weeks away. We are officially in the month of April. We are in the month of April. It's April Fool's Day. I don't have any big pranks or anything for you today. I know it's not April Fool's Day when you're listening to the show. But for me, at this current point in time, it is 8:26 on April Fool's Day. Again, I don't have anything. I've got nothing planned for you. Actually, you know what we could do for April Fool's Day? We could look at my March Madness bracket. I think it's not really like a prank thing, but it's more of let's just look at the fool that made a March Madness bracket. I think this is just how we're gonna start off shows for the next couple weeks, because we obviously got the Final Four taking place this weekend. But let's go over the bracket, the one we did for the show. Then we'll go over the one that I submitted for actual money. We do this every single time, where it's okay, let's just see how the bracket did. And right now, I have got I got half. I was going to say all but 2. It's there's only 4 teams, so we can't really do anything about that. Oh my goodness. But my bracket, the one we did while we were recording the show, so remember the last show we did was March 26th. That was the last time we had a show. So we missed the Sweet 16 matchups and the Elite 8 matchups. Okay, so those were our last. We did this from the round of 32 and stuff like that. It was the last time we recorded a show. So let's look at some of the Elite 8 or Sweet 16 matchups that took place. We had Duke and Arizona. And what was interesting about Duke and Arizona, if you remember back to last week, I said I would be shocked if Duke had any game that finished, but when if they won by less than single digits, or won by less than double digits. Sorry, if they won by less than single digits, would that just mean they lost the game? Is that what that would translate to? They just flat out lost. But Arizona kept it close. It was 193. Caleb Love went off in that game, which was not really surprising. I mean, played at North Carolina, ended their season there a few years ago. He was on the team and made some big shots in the game that was Coach K's final game in college. So Duke versus North Carolina. Coach K's final game was against North Carolina, and Caleb Love went off. And against Duke, this time around, Caleb Love went off. I believe he had 35 points or something like that. I could be mistaken. It's not letting me click on it, so I can't. Oh, right when I say that, it allows me to click on it. But yeah, he had 35 points in this game. One of 3 people, actually, to score over double digits. Jaden Bradley scored 15. Henry Visar scored 13 points, and then on the other side for Duke, Caleb Love scored 35 in what seems to be his last game of college football basketball. But you know what? They find new ways to get people to play college basketball, so it wouldn't surprise me if he found some other way to get eligible for next year. But Cooper Flagg, 30 points. 30 points for Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg, it was so crazy when he first came to Duke. I don't know if you guys you should remember this. If you follow sports, it doesn't matter how much you follow college basketball or even recruiting stuff like that, you knew about Cooper Flagg for a few years now. He was coming from Maine. What comes from Maine except for lobsters? Has there ever been anything noteworthy in Maine? Kirk Ferentz, he coached at Maine, so there's one thing. But apart from that, what can we talk about the state of Maine? Like 90% of the time, I forget Maine and Vermont exist. Same with New Mexico. Like these are states, and New Mexico has Breaking Bad, but I forget they exist like 99% of the time. But Cooper Flagg, you heard of. Like he was so highly touted, and nobody wanted him to go to Duke. And he announced he was going to Duke and all that stuff. I mean, he's a Northeastern white kid. Of course he's going to play for Duke. Obviously he's going to play for Duke. But there's like that little bit of hope. Because he's not like the typical Northeastern white kid. He doesn't, I can only speak for myself. But I don't really want to punch Cooper Flagg in the face. I don't. Like Duke needs that one white guy where we're supposed to hate. And if I'm missing somebody, forgive me, but Grayson Allen was the last white guy that we had at Duke where everybody was like, oh yeah, screw that guy. Like Duke has to have that guy. Whereas the Plumlee brothers, they have to be considered in that category as well. Obviously, Christian Laettner's in that category. John Shire, I wouldn't say he was in that category. I wouldn't say that. John Shire, I just saw a clip from Pat Beverly talking about this, about John Shire, the legendary high school basketball player in Chicago. Like, John Shire was not on that level of the Plumlees, Grayson Allen, Christian Laettner. He was not on that level. And Cooper Flagg's not either. And that's what kind of sucks about it. Like, Duke doesn't really have that hated guy this year. And I saw people the other day talking about, is Cooper Flagg the greatest freshman of all time? And we've seen some fantastic freshman seasons. We got like Anthony Davis won a national championship his freshman year. Kevin Durant went off with Texas during his freshman year. Like, we've seen some great freshman seasons. But when Cooper Flagg came to town, like, if you remember at the start of the season, like I watched Jeff Teague talk about this, and he's one person, but it was not just him that was talking about it. He's the most notable one I can think of at this point in time. Where it was like trying to, I don't want to say belittle Cooper Flagg, or like throw some question marks at Cooper Flagg. Nothing he was saying was like outlandish or anything like that. He wasn't calling him the worst basketball player of all time by any means, but he had some question marks about him. Like when you come in that hyped and everybody knows about you, you were practicing with the Olympic squad. Everybody knows about you. We want to see you perform week in and week out on the basketball court, and he did. Cooper Flagg went buck wild this year, and I think for most people out there, and I'm including myself in most people, picking Duke this year in the NCAA tournament was one of the easiest decisions I had to make this entire year. And my bracket sucked ass. But I have Duke. So I'm perfectly content with that. And I hated picking Duke because I hate Duke. I've never liked Duke. Always watched North Carolina growing up. Like, I never wanted to have Duke do good. This is the first time I've ever picked Duke to do anything in March Madness. First time ever. Because I can't stand Duke. Duke football, I think we talked about this last time. Duke football, I don't really care. But this game against Arizona, 100-93, the single-digit game. Now, they got pissed off that the game finished between single digits, so they absolutely beat the brakes out of Alabama 85-65 in the Elite Eight matchup. Alabama went buck wild against BYU 113-88. I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is true or not. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe I saw a stat that said if Alabama did not make a single three, they would still won the game. Or no, a single two-pointer, sorry. If they didn't make a single two-pointer, they still would have won the game. Like, they were going absolutely ballistic from three-point range. Absolutely ballistic. Let's just pull up the numbers for Alabama. They made 25 three-point attempts. Mark Sears made 10 himself. Aiden Holloway off the bench, 6 three-pointers made. Chris Youngblood, 5 three-pointers made. Like, 25 three-pointers. Like, shooting 49% from three is impressive enough. But when you shoot 25 for 51, that is ridiculous numbers. And BYU, 6 of 30. Like, again, Aiden Holloway made 6 by himself. That's how crazy of a game that was. But they blew their load way too early, and Duke absolutely beat the shit out of them. So Duke's in the Final Four. To not really surprise anybody. Houston, they had a close game against Purdue. They had a close game against Gonzaga, but they had a close game against Purdue. And then they beat the crap out of Tennessee in the Elite Eight, 69-50. Tennessee beat Kentucky. That game was pretty much wrapped up fairly early. Looking at the other side, Florida beat Maryland, as pretty much expected, and then they beat Texas Tech. And Texas Tech against Arkansas, one of the more entertaining games in the tournament up to this point in time. Arkansas was leading big in this game. They were leading big in this game. They were 38-31 at halftime, but then Texas Tech, stormed back in this game. Ended up winning the game in overtime 85-83. 3 players in their starting lineup. JT Toppin obviously scored over 20 points, but Darian Williams, Christian Anderson all scored over 20 points in this game. 3 starters over 20. Arkansas had 2 players that scored over 20, with Donnell Davis scoring 30 and Carter Knox scoring 20. Like, this was a crazy, crazy, crazy game. And I think a lot of people out there were just rooting for some craziness to happen, because I've seen people on Twitter call it chalk madness this year, because it feels like there's been no real upsets this season. And that was one that we came by far the closest to seeing. But John Calipari is the head coach. I know he doesn't necessarily have the most raucous fan base out there. So I'm sure there was some people that were like, I'm fine watching Arkansas blow this lead. And then Florida beat Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. The Elite Eight. And then the final one, Auburn beat Michigan. Not surprising. And then Michigan State beat Ole Miss. Close game. Ole Miss, I believe, this was the game where they made the half-court shot to get it win 3. Like, it was a 3-point game was the final, but it was really a 6-point game minus the half-court shot. I believe it was that game where it happened. Sorry if I'm misremembering that. But, yeah, then Auburn beat Michigan State. So, my Final Four predicted was Duke-Houston, and then Auburn-Florida. Jeez, it was Duke, Tennessee, and Michigan State, Florida. That was my Final Four. I had Michigan going on. No, I had Florida going to the national championship game, which is still possible. But we had the number 1 seeds, all the number 1 seeds, make the Final Four. I think I saw something the other day that said the 4 of the top 10 Ken Palm rankings of all time are these Final Four teams. I think Duke's number 1. So Duke, Houston, Auburn, Florida, all number 1 seeds in the Final Four. First time this has happened since 2008, which is what we talked about prior to the tournament, ironically, because it was like, man, could this happen? Like, you never want to sit back and have all number 1 seeds go in the Final Four. You don't want to be that guy. You don't. Like, 2008 was the first time that had ever happened, and we haven't had it happen since then. We are in the year 2025 right now. It's been a long-ass time since that has taken place. And it's crazy. What is so funny about March Madness, one of my favorite things about March Madness, is that it could be that straightforward, but nobody's going to predict that. I'm sure there was a few people out there that predicted all 4 number 1 seeds to make the Final Four. Hell, I had all 4 number 1 seeds make the Elite Eight, and I'm not smart at all. Prove it. I'll prove it in a little bit. But this March Madness was not really madness. We didn't really have that madness this year. Like, we had McNeese State beating Clemson. We had Arkansas beating St. John's. We had the comeback game with Texas Tech and Arkansas. We've had Duke steamrolling their way through the first 4 rounds. Like, we've had some moments, but for the most part, it's been pretty much straightforward up to this point. I don't think that's a bad thing. I know people are going to cry and piss and moan because it's a bad thing. Oh, we want to see upsets and all that good stuff. Like, we just got to have fun. We don't need to hate everything. Like, we don't need to sit around and hate everything. Like, we don't and is it always fun, or is it fun to have that, like, one random white dude from some random podunk school do well in March Madness? Yeah, because it's funny, because it's like, man, that guy looks like he plays YMCA ball. And he's throwing 35 points to the number 1 team in the nation. He's made 16 threes in a row. How is that even possible? I know that doesn't equal 35, but just work with me here. I'm just throwing out random numbers at this point. But you get the joke. You get where I'm coming from, at least. At least I hope so. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think we need to have that every year. Sometimes you can have these kind of years and it's still fine, because it's still college basketball. It's still the NCAA tournament. And you're going to watch it regardless of McNeese State making a Final Four run or not. Like, yeah, you can go back to the year where San Diego State and UConn were in it, or when Butler made back-to-back national championship games when Gordon Hayward was a missed half-court shot away from being a national champion over John Shire's Duke. Like, yeah, there's some fun moments in there. And this year, I guess you could say it doesn't have that quote-unquote signature moment at this point in time. But I don't know. I don't think it's been bad. We don't need to hate everything. I'm like, it might not be like the perfect picture March Madness thing, but they don't need to have upsets it's fun. Yes, it's fun. But you need to pipe it down a little bit about this is the worst March Madness bracket ever. Like, I don't know about you. I didn't like seeing San Diego State in the Final Four. I didn't like that. It bothered me. Why is San Diego State there? Butler, I loved that one. VCU, that was fun. Loyola, that was fun with Sister Jean, who I think is still kicking it. Like, those were fun. VCU beating Duke with Eric Maynor. Like, that was awesome. Lehigh with CJ McCollum beating Duke. Those things were fun. Florida Gulf Coast. San Diego State, that's not fun, in my opinion. That's not where I have my fun with March Madness. So if Arkansas made it, like, you would get your 10 matchup. Like, you would get your 10 seed to go to the Elite Eight, but it's Arkansas. That's not fun. Like, McNeese State, Gonzaga as an 8 seed would have been fun. UConn is, well, I guess a lot of people don't really like UConn all too much. So I guess maybe not that one. But yeah, right. So we got the Final Four matchups. That is taking place on April 5th. We've got Florida versus Auburn first. And then we got Duke versus Houston in San Antonio, Texas at the Alamo Dome. The only thing that thing is used for is Final Four in the U.S. Army All-American game. That's the only thing that thing does. From all things I can tell, that thing is a piece of shit. But that's the only thing they use it for. And I'm excited for the Final Four. I don't know about you. I'm going to watch it. It's going to be March Madness still. So we're going to watch it. I mean, it's not March anymore, but it's still March Madness. But yeah, my bracket right now, 64%, 64.6%, 860 points. Like, nothing fantastic. Nothing world-beating. It's just fine. It's a typical normal March Madness bracket. I'm not your mom. I don't have a 98% in March Madness this year. Like, that seems to be the people that have these fantastic brackets are the people that have never watched college basketball before in their lives and just go off pure vibes and don't overthink anything because there's nothing to really overthink. I'm not a college basketball expert. Never claimed to be. I've always told people, never listen to what I say when it comes to March Madness. But I would expect myself to be a little bit better than 64.6%. At least you would hope so. Now, let's go back to the other bracket. The one I submitted for money. Like, let me put this in perspective for you. So Jared, he had St. John's winning this bracket. I'm in a group with 5 people. And he had St. John's winning. He was very high on St. John's. Remember when we talked about before the tournament, about like, Louisville's going to beat Creighton, and they're going to beat Louisville's going to beat Auburn. So I changed my pick on Louisville Creighton because he said that. I was like, you know what? They're in Kentucky. Maybe it works out. But he had St. John's. They lost the second round, obviously. He had them winning the whole thing. Reminder, I had Duke. So even in my other bracket, I still had Duke winning because I'm not going to change my thought process on who's winning the damn thing. I'm obviously confident to predict on one thing. I'm just not going to switch it up this time. Like, when I was a kid, it was fun to like create thousands of different brackets. The newspaper would hit a full sheet, a full spread bracket, and you would go on there and create your thing on the newspaper, and then your dad would print off brackets, you'd hang them up, or fax them back to the office, stuff like that. But on the March Madness app, you just create as many as they would let you to do, allow you to do. This year and previous years, no. I'm 27. I don't need to be creating 1,000 different brackets. Because I'm just going to overthink every single one. And I'm going like, well, I did this one for my show. I did this one for a pool. And then these 5 I just did for shits and giggles. And these 5 are better than the 2 that I actually am holding stuff to. But yeah, back to the original point. Jared at St. John's winning. I had Duke winning. I'm still in last place in this bracket pool. Let me repeat that. So a guy who had St. John's winning the tournament, who again lost in the round of 32, is still above me in this March Madness pool. And there's money on the line here. Not only $10. I don't really care. I've already submitted my money. I already gave the money to Andrew because I'm not going to get it back. Like, what's the point of me holding on to it? Just so, he's going to send it back. It's like, no, he's not. I'm not going to win. Why is he going to send me the money back? Just out of pity? I would love that. That'd be so cool to get money out of pity. especially in the March Madness bracket, but I'm 100 points behind. What did I do in this bracket? I don't even want to look at it. Like, what did I do in this bracket to be this bad? Like, Steven, he's in first place in this bracket. He has watched maybe, and I'm being generous here, 5 college basketball games in his 26 years on this planet. He has got a 99.3% on his bracket. 99.3. He has 1,110 points. He has the Final Four exactly right. Of course he does. He has it exactly right. How do you do that? Like, I've been following college basketball for years. Again, I haven't watched college basketball as closely as I have on these previous years as I did when I was a kid, but I've watched more I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't. And Steven's going to win the $50 or $40, I guess. He's going to get his $10 back, so he's going to win $40. I mean, to put some positives out there, I am currently winning in my fantasy hockey championship game. That's fun. That's fun to be my 3rd straight fantasy hockey win. That's cool. See, that's where I care about more. I think, like, fantasy football is that's where I want to do well. I came in last this year, which is not ideal. But in one league, yeah, hold your horses, in one league, okay? Not every league. But that's where it's the most fun. March Madness, I'm starting to despise. I'm joking, of course, but it's still a gut punch. Like, how am I 100 points back when a dude literally had St. John's winning, they got eliminated in the round of 32. We're in the Final Four. How's that even possible? That's how terrible of a bracket that is. So when I say never listen to me when it comes to the March Madness stuff, I mean it. Never, ever listen to me when it comes to March Madness stuff. I'm not going to give you good advice. I would talk to Steven. Steven is the guy to talk to right now. Now, my other friend Noah, he's doing well as well. He's got like a 96% or whatever, but he watches more college basketball than I would say most of us in this group. But at least I would assume. I could be completely wrong about that. But I would talk to Steven. I had a friend, Christian. He's not in this pool, but he's at a work pool, and he's got like a 98% or something like that. I don't know. So I said Steven's watched 5 college basketball games ever. I would say 4 of them were with friends. 1 of them may have been by himself. Christian, I know, has never watched a college basketball game in his life. I should say no, but I don't think he's ever watched a college basketball game in his life. And he's got, it's just annoying. Now let's look at my women's bracket. Might as well. It can't hurt to check it out. 79.3. That's fine. I'll take it. Got my Final Four. I had UConn beating LSU. UCLA beat LSU, so that didn't really work out here. And then I had South Carolina beating Texas. So I had all number 1 seeds, except for UConn and LSU. I do have UConn winning the whole thing. Still confident in saying that. But, oh wow, this one's kind of impressive. In Regional 4, I only got 1 game wrong. I only got 1. It was Iowa versus Oklahoma, and Iowa got absolutely shit stomped by Oklahoma. But I had to pick Iowa. I had to. But every other game, I got exactly right in that one. So I'll take it. I'll freaking take it. That works for me. That works for me. And Regional 3, I got every game right except for 2. I had Notre Dame beating TCU, and I had Creighton beating Illinois. So I'll take it. We'll take it. That one I got a couple more games wrong. The other Regional 1, I got a couple more games wrong. But all in all, I'll take it. In fairness, I do think the women's bracket's a little bit easier to predict just because the first rounds, I believe, are all in home court. I believe that's right. And there's rarely any upsets in that. Like UConn, they went 103-34 against Arkansas State. I know it's a 2 versus 15 game, but even like Iowa versus Murray State, 92-57. We almost had one Kentucky Liberty. That was close, 79-78. but there's a lot of blowouts early in the tournament for women's college basketball. And then the really fun stuff starts probably the Sweet 16. The March Madness aspect for the men's side is round 64, so you can see some crazy upset and stuff like that. You can see a Cinderella story. You're not really going to get any Cinderella stories in women's college basketball. You're just not. Unless you want to count Iowa during the Caitlin Clark era, because Iowa was never going to national championships before that. But, yeah, it's still fun. It's still fun. And I will take my 1,050 points and my 79.3%. It's not a perfect bracket by any stretch of the imagination, but I will take it. Like Mike Greenberg's sitting there with a calm, cool 1150. Like, who does he think he is? 96.9%, the best bracket out of the women's side of things. Who's got the best men's bracket? Jay Billis, and then Jay Williams is also it. Jay Billis didn't pick Duke? What? That's crazy. That is crazy. Actually, out of the top 6 people on ESPN, only Evan Cohen, picked Duke. Everybody else picked Florida. That's interesting. That is interesting. I would not have expected that to happen. But Jay Billis, proving his worth, I guess you could say, as ESPN's college basketball expert. I know a lot of people don't like Jay Billis. I know a lot of people don't like him. But he's done well for himself this year. He's done pretty well for himself this year. But on another topic of predicting things, the NFL draft is the predictor's time of the year. Like, this is the biggest event in, like, outside of the NFL season. The NFL draft is the biggest thing in American sports. And I'm not even exaggerating, because the NFL draft is attended. Let's look at last year's draft. Just look at last year's draft as a starting point. Just attendance live at the draft, okay? NFL draft attendance. So last year in Detroit, the final total was more than 775,000 fans attended the 3-day draft. 775,000 fans. Like, this is not me just like bigging up the draft because I love the NFL draft. No. This is an event. A 3-day event is the correct way to look at it, because this is not a normal thing. Like, you look at the NBA draft. That's the second best or second most viewed draft out of all of them. Out of every single draft imaginable. It's not even close to the NFL draft. Baseball draft, no one even knows when the MLB draft is. No one knows when that one is. Same with the NHL draft. No one knows when these drafts are. MLS Super Draft? Okay, let's not get too crazy here. Like, the NFL draft is bigger than some of these leagues, or most of these leagues, like big events. It's so highly watched. The only thing that's happening is Roger Goodell walking on stage and saying a team's name and a player's name and a college and a position. Like, that's all he's saying. But we are glued to the TV because we all want to know where our teams pick, what other teams pick, what players go where. And at the end of the day, you just want to have your mock draft. If you do one, you want to have your mock draft be the most accurate mock draft out there. And this year is an interesting one because, like we talked about, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, there's been no trades involving first-round picks this year. So I don't know if that means trades galore in the first round in this year's draft, or if that means there's going to be very few trades like we saw in 2020. And 2020 was like an anomaly because it was COVID and the commissioner was doing the draft in his basement. Like, we had a trade between the Niners and the Bucks, I think, where it was the Bucks traded up to trade Tristan Wirfs, the 49ers took Javon Kinlaw, and they just traded up one pick, like 13 and 14 or something like that. Like, that was the trade. And we saw some trades later in the first round, like past 20, then that's where the trades kind of really start kicking off. But I don't know if we're going to get like a trade palooza this year. Like, we didn't get a trade last year until the 10th pick, and that was the Vikings moving up. Again, one spot to select J.J. McCarthy. I just don't have that feeling of massive trades taking place this year. Like, if you look at, like, the quarterbacks of the position that usually define the draft in that regard, there's no quarterback that's going to make it. Like, Cam Ward is pretty much, from all things I've seen just today alone, Cam Ward is pretty much a lock to go number one. At this point in time. Pretty much a lock. Shedeur Sanders, we have no idea what his team is going to be at this point in time. There's conflicting reports surrounding what the Giants are going to do at number 3. It's starting to look more and more likely that the Browns are going to take Abdul Carter. That one's pretty much seemingly locked up at this point in time. But Shedeur Sanders' future is massive question because the Giants, again, like we talked about last time, signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. So would you throw in Shedeur Sanders there? The beautiful thing for the Giants here is that they don't need to feel pressured to drafting one. They don't need to feel the need to draft Shedeur Sanders. They can if they want to, but it's not like this overriding need where like, oh my God, they need to come away with the quarterback. You can justify not coming with the quarterback in round 1, but I do think you need to get one in round 2. So that will be interesting to see how they address that. But if Shedeur Sanders, let's say hypothetically, does fall past the Giants, then I would see a trade happening. I don't know who, and who knows? Maybe he could just fall naturally. Like Aaron Rodgers, he fell all the way to 24 with the Green Bay Packers. He was a projected number 1 overall pick. It was between him and Alex Smith, basically a coin flip, and he fell all the way to 24. Obviously, his contracts were different for quarterbacks at that point in time than they are right now, especially rookie contracts. But there could be a reality where, let's say he falls to the Steelers. I don't see him slipping past Pittsburgh. If he does slip past Pittsburgh, then we're looking at the Browns trading back into the first round to draft him, or the Giants doing that same thing. Because the Browns pick 33, Giants pick 34. And the Vikings at 24, that's your prime real estate right there. They have 4 picks in the draft. That's your prime real estate. The Browns have 10. So if there was a team to draft a quarterback at that spot, I would bet money on the Browns doing so. Passing the LA Rams in the process. I think that'll be a very interesting talking point. But the trades, is there any real player, like maybe I could see the Bears trading up to draft Ashton Genty, like to jump the Raiders or something. But apart from that, I don't know. I just don't see it at this point. And I'm probably going to be wildly wrong. Like, do you remember back in, oh crap, what draft was this? This would have been the Kenny Pickett draft. So this was 2022, where the first few picks, I got to pull this draft up. This draft kind of went trade crazy, if you remember this one. I just got to make sure it's right. Yeah, it's this one. So the first few picks were perfectly fine. It went chalk pretty much. It was Travon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner, Kayvon Thibodeau, Ike Ekwonu, Evan Neal, Drake London, Charles Cross, Garrett Wilson. All those picks were made at that spot. The teams that own that pick made it there. But then we had the Saints trading up with Washington. We had the Lions trading up with the Vikings. We had the Eagles trading up in the draft to draft Jordan Davis. We had Houston trading back. The Washington trading back. The Titans trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles, so they got the 18th pick. Then Hollywood Brown got traded to the Cardinals, so the Baltimore Ravens got the 25th pick. Like, it was just an absolute craziness of a time. And then the Bills traded up with the Ravens to draft Kyrie Elam, which that didn't really work out. But but that trade, it was like, or that early portion of the draft, it was like, okay, this is pretty simple at this point in time. It's pretty much going how we all kind of expected it to. And then we just got blasted in the face with 1,000 different trades. Whether it have been players or just picks. It was just absolutely crazy. But the top 10, like I was watching ESPN before I started recording, because they did a draft countdown or something like that. And Mike Greenberg's bold prediction that there will be a trade with one of the first 4 picks. We didn't have that last year. If you remember, we just went it was just Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Marvin Harrison Jr. There were a bunch of links with teams trading into the top 4 to draft one of those quarterbacks, namely the Giants at 6, but it didn't end up happening. So I don't know. Because if it goes, it's like in my mock draft that I did. Well, this will be a nice little segue here. In my mock draft that I did Cam Ward 1, Abdul Carter 2, Shedeur Sanders 3, Travis Hunter 4. In what world, at this point in time, could we see those 4 teams trading back if that's how it goes? Now, if the Giants go with Travis Hunter, that would open the door for the Patriots. Because you're looking at teams like the Saints that could possibly trade up to that point. Maybe. I'm not saying they would, but maybe. Because you can make an argument that the Patriots could get Will Campbell, if that's who they'd want, at pick 9, if really reaching here. You could do that. Or you can just stay pick Will Campbell. But yeah, that's the top 4 picks for me. And Cam Ward, again, pretty straightforward. Abdul Carter at this point seems pretty straightforward, though I think Shedeur Sanders would fit what Kevin Stefanski wants to do. And Deion Sanders' former teammate, Bill Musgrave, is the new quarterback coach with the Browns. Just something to keep an eye out for. It could mean absolutely nothing. Could mean everything, but it'll probably mean nothing. Sanders at the Giants at 3 is where I want to start kicking this thing off, because this one, like I brought up before, there is no urgency, I guess you could say, from the Giants to draft a quarterback at 3. They're going to need a quarterback. I'm not sitting here going like, oh, well, the Giants don't need to draft a quarterback at all. No, you signed Russell Wilson to a 1-year deal, and you signed Jameis Winston to a 2-year deal. You're going to need a quarterback. Those are your like, oh, we're good enough to make the playoffs, I guess. But if we're looking at Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson now versus what we did a few years ago, their stocks are not at the highest. Like, there's going to be some people that completely rule out quarterback here. There's going to be people that say, well, they definitely need a quarterback here. I'm right dead smack in the middle. I could see them going either direction here. I do think it's kind of funny with the whole, like, Travis Hunter. The Giants should draft Travis Hunter so he could tackle the players when Jameis Winston throws an interception because he plays corner. Like, that'd be kind of funny to see. But the Giants and Shedeur Sanders, it just feels like Adam Schefter said today, and the closer you get to the draft, the more lying happens. Like, that's where it gets kind of annoying and kind of frustrating to kind of like pinpoint what's real and what's not. But he said that Travis Hunter will probably be the pick there. That's what his gut would tell him right now. He said it's no reports, just my gut is telling me that Travis Hunter will go to the Giants at 3. But I just cannot get past all the flirting that the Giants and Shedeur Sanders have had since the frickin' Alamo Bowl. And there was that big picture that went around with the Giants cleats and Shedeur Sanders' locker and that stuff. And Deion said that he had cleats for the Raiders and stuff like that too. But how come we never saw those cleats? We only saw the Giants cleats. And I saw a clip about an hour ago of Shedeur Sanders talking about the Giants in a video. Like, he was talking with Gilly from Barstool, just going like, he was like, the Gilly was saying, oh, Nev, I can't root against you. I can't, because he's a Philly, he's an Eagles fan. I can't root against you, not the Giants, man. Like, it felt so natural all off season. So that's where I'm getting kind of confused, I guess you could say. Like, all off season, we have heard that the Giants and Shedeur Sanders have mutual interest in each other. ESPN last week said that the Giants' love affair with Shedeur Sanders is one of the worst kept secrets in the league. So now that we've reached April, now we don't know if they're going to take him. That's the part that kind of annoys me with this whole draft process. Is that talked about Shedeur Sanders and the Giants, Shedeur Sanders Giants, Shedeur Sanders Giants. Now it's April. They might not draft Shedeur Sanders. Because they have Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson? I brought this example up last time where it was like Josh McCown and Teddy Bridgewater of the Jets when they drafted Sam Darnold. I know it's different because Teddy Bridgewater is coming off a debilitating knee injury with the Vikings. Josh McCown was a little bit older. But if we're talking about stock, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston are not at their peak of their powers in regards to like stock around the NFL. They're just not. And I can see a reality where like maybe they do draft Travis Hunter and they draft Jackson Dart in the back half of the first round or like in the second round. Or maybe they just wait a year entirely and draft Drew Aller or somebody from Penn State. Like, what if they go that direction? I have no idea. That's the annoying part with the draft. Because the best fit for what Dable wants to do would be Drew Aller. And you can make a decent case that Jackson Dart fits what Brian Dable himself wants to do rather than Shedeur Sanders. But that's not a slight on Shedeur Sanders in the slightest. And I've seen a lot of things going around about Shedeur Sanders within the past week, not just about the draft, or not about the Giants, but just about him. And I've always found this conversation interesting because it doesn't matter what he does, he's going to have people that despise him. And I'm not talking about like, oh, they don't like him. No, people hate Shedeur Sanders on Twitter. I know it's Twitter. It's not like the end all and be all and everything, but like there's some pretty like heavy takes on Shedeur Sanders when it comes to the NFL draft from people that I don't think have spent a lot of time watching him. Because I can tell you this, he's not my second best quarterback in the draft because his last name is Sanders. I can tell you that for free. And he's not a slow quarterback. He's just not a blistering athlete. Like I saw someone post a 4-minute video of Shedeur Sanders being athletic. It's like, okay, he's not unathletic. If you're saying he's unathletic, you've never watched him. He is an athlete, but he's not fast. He's not like this burner that's going to pick up 60-yard canes. He's not Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen or anything like that. No. Jackson Dart, I think, is more athletic than Shedeur Sanders is, but Shedeur Sanders can make plays when required, when on the move, past the line of scrimmage or behind it. We've talked about before. He is the best quarterback in this draft when he rolls out to his left. Remind you, he's right-handed. That's not something that's normal for quarterbacks to do at this point in their development. And he's tough as hell. Absolutely tough as hell. Is there some moments where he slipped up and he's got his tongue's moved faster than his brain? Yeah, a couple times. But that's not how I change my entire perspective on Shedeur Sanders as an NFL prospect. I think if the Giants drafted him at 3, I think they'd be perfectly content with that. I think it'd be a good draft pick. But again, you're going to get a bunch of varying takes around Shedeur Sanders, mostly because his dad's Deion Sanders. And the same goes for Travis Hunter. I don't think many people out there, if they really dug deep down, think that he wasn't deserving of the Heisman Trophy. But because he's played for Colorado and he played for Deion Sanders and with Shedeur Sanders, is the most rigged Heisman Trophy of all time. Like, that, if you just take a step back and realize how stupid that is, you'll be a lot happier. I promise you. Stop, like we always talk about, don't scout the helmet. Well, don't scout the helmet and don't scout who his dad is. Like people hated Lonzo Ball because LeVar Ball. What has Lonzo Ball ever done that deserves any hate whatsoever? He plays for the Bulls. I don't really have anything negative to say about Lonzo Ball. But everybody hated him because his dad was LeVar Ball. Like, the whole, the sins of the father. Like, who the hell cares, man? Shedeur Sanders is a good enough quarterback to get selected in the first round of the draft. And it's not because his last name is Sanders. It's not because he's related to Deion Sanders. It's not because he played for Colorado. It's not because ESPN's on the payroll. It's not any of that. He is a damn good quarterback. And if the Giants took him at 3, I think they'd be perfectly fine, and they'd be set up with a quarterback of the future, and they would probably trade one of Winston or Wilson. And if he doesn't go to the Giants, there's a lot of different opportunities for him out there. But a lot less concrete ones than the Giants, because the Giants, they've been talking about drafting a quarterback for what seems like a while. But you look at a team like the Raiders, because I know they traded for Geno Smith and all that stuff. I know they traded for Geno. But reminder, Geno Smith is not a spring chicken right now. He's older, and he's played well. I don't want to take anything away from Geno Smith and call him a bad quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback, but just have that contingency plan in place. They haven't signed him to that quote-unquote long-term extension they've been talking about yet, so why not? And there's been quarterbacks that have signed or get traded to new teams for way more lucrative deals than what the Raiders did for Geno Smith. We can go back a year for that one with the Atlanta Falcons with Kirk Cousins. And they still drafted Michael Penix 8th overall. So I know they're like, people are going to be like, oh, he's not going to go to the Raiders. They have Geno Smith. Do not rule that out. Because again, you remember how much Tom Brady has talked about Shedeur Sanders, how much they have been around each other, and that Tom Brady pretty much mentored Shedeur Sanders. So if the Giants pass on him, though it's seems pretty chalk at this point that Ashton Genty will be the pick there, I wouldn't be shocked if Shedeur Sanders went to the Raiders. I wouldn't. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but there's a lot of things that link Shedeur Sanders there, and it's not just because Geno Smith's there, they're not going to draft him. Again, there's been a lot more concrete quarterback situations that have drafted quarterbacks even with said quarterback situation. But then you also got the Jets. Again, they got Justin Fields in. Justin Fields' PR be damned, you can still draft Shedeur Sanders. You got the Saints at 9. Kellen Moore's a young head coach. Derek Carr is hated by everybody in New Orleans pretty much. And I think he's on the last year of his deal. So go in that direction. If he's not the last year of his deal, they have a way to get out of his deal. It pretty much looks like he's going to be done in New Orleans after this year. That's what it looks like. Could be completely wrong about that. But then you got the Cowboys could be talked about in it. I'm not saying that's what I would do because they have Dak Prescott. I would not do that, but it's the Cowboys. Who the hell knows? The Steelers at 21. Then you've got, again, the Browns and Giants at the end of the first round, or in the second round, back half of the first round, they trade up. The Rams are an option as well at 26. Like, there's other options. Shedeur Sanders is not going to fall at the first round. He's not. And if I'm looking at it right now, I don't think he should fall out of the top 3 because I think the Giants should just take him. But, again, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But I would go with him at 3. The Patriots should Travis Hunter at 4. This one's interesting because I wouldn't be too shocked if they just took Will Campbell here anyways. I know they're going to link Armand Membo and Will Campbell. Will Campbell feels to me like a Patriots player. Like, he just does. He looks like a Patriots player. And they have a massive hole at left tackle. They signed Morgan Moses this offseason with a 3-year contract, which is not the long-term answer at right tackle. He's 34 years old. You've got to get another tackle in there eventually, but he's a good stopgap for now. You can deal with that later. Left tackle's still an issue. Mike Vrabel said the draft is set up well for a left tackle. When that is, I don't know. So that's going to be interesting to see the thing to talk about. But Travis Hunter is he a player where you feel you could pass him up? Because you could go like, well, the Chargers passed up Malik Neighbors for Joe Alt. What's the gap in your mind, as the listener? What would be crazier? Passing on Malik Neighbors for Joe Alt or passing on Travis Hunter for Will Campbell? Because those are going to be your two scenarios you look at the most where you're like, oh, well, the Chargers needed weapons, but they also wanted to build the offensive line. That's the question you've got to ask yourself here. Like, would the Patriots do that? And the short answer, I think they could do that. I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest. Mike Vrabel's the head coach. He is a New England Patriot through and through. He's a Belichick disciple. Bill Belichick always liked to address the offensive line, or at least the lines in general. But Travis Hunter's just too damn special at this point, really. Like, if you have a chance to draft Travis Hunter, he's a different player than Malik Neighbors. He just is. Like, and Malik Neighbors was fantastic coming out of LSU. Him, Jane Daniels, and Brian Thomas Jr. last year, or 2 years ago, at LSU, were magical. I would very much recommend, if you've never done it, go back and watch those three work together at LSU. It was insane. This, I was thinking I was going to say something crazy, but I don't know if it's crazy or not. From a college standpoint, is it crazy? It might be. I had more fun watching Jane Daniels and those two work than Burrow, Chase Jefferson. I'm not saying that they were better in the freaking slightest. I'm not saying that at all. Obviously, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson is the best, one of the best, if not the best trio in college football history. I'm not saying that. Like, Joe Burrow led the nation in pass yards, won the Heisman Trophy. Chase and Jefferson were both top 3 receiving yards. That's not what I'm saying. Just from an entertainment standpoint, that LSU team was fun as hell last year. They were not like the greatest team of all time like that 2019 team was, but that team last year, they were fun. Like, watch the game against Florida. Like, that game was fun as hell. I would very much recommend you do that. Again, not saying they're better than the trio from 2019. Not saying that in the slightest. So I don't want to get misconstrued. But but Travis Hunter, I think initially they're probably going to want him to choose one spot. I'm not saying that's exactly like, oh, that's what needs to happen, but I think that's what will happen. Whether it's a receiver or corner. Receivers make more money, so I'm sure his wallet will be telling him, hey, go, and he's not struggling for money at all, but you go play receiver. But if he feels he can do both, might as well let him try. But the AFC East, that's a rough-ass division to try and play both sides. It is. Because the AFC East has got good receivers to cover and some good corners that will cover you. Looking at the Bills, they might not have that true number one receiver, but that platoon system that we run on the outside, Khalil Shakir being the main guy in that, that's not going to be easy to follow. The Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, that's not easy. And then you got the Jets with Garrett Wilson. Like, that's not easy. And I know Christian Gonzalez is cornerback one, so he'll probably be the main guy guarding those people. But still, you're going to guard Jalen Waddle. You're going to guard, the Jets are the Jets. But then you look at receiver. Like, you got Stephon Diggs across from you now, but he's over 30. So are they going to put Jalen Ramsey on you? Is Christian Benford going to follow you? Is Ahmad Gardner going to follow you? Like, that's not the easiest division to do that both ways thing in. AFC South, that's the ideal spot right there. That's the ideal situation. Questionable quarterback play, not a lot of great wide receivers. That is the greatest division to do that in. AFC East, I don't think so, especially when you got like Josh Allen. Tua's very accurate. He's okay. He's not a bad quarterback. Let's stop. Let's calm down. And the Jets, Justin Fields. But if the Patriots pick a tackle, it wouldn't shock me. But Travis Hunter be a really hard player to pass up on. And speaking of tackles, the Jaguars at 5. Mason Graham feels like the most natural fit here by a country mile. And he's probably one of the safest picks in the draft. Do you draft, and this is not, I'm not speaking from me, I'm speaking from like an NFL team's perspective. Do you draft a safe player or the player that has the higher upside? In your mind. Now, you could think Mason Graham is both answers, but would you take Mason Graham on the defensive line, which is a big need for the Jaguars, or would you take Armin Membo from Missouri and secure up the tackle spots? That's the question here, because James Gladstone, the GM for the Jacksonville Jaguars, has talked about wanting to secure the offensive line. Like, Gladstone has stated now, this is what he said, beyond terms of personnel, we're going to start up front to make things a lot easier for the offensive. That is going to make a lot of things easier on the offensive operations as a whole, and we are going to make sure we address that not only in free agency, but the draft and beyond. Like, I'm not saying that it's like locking them up to draft an offensive tackle here, because they've also talked about they're going to address the defensive tackles early too. But the difference is defensive tackles in this class this year is a lot deeper, in my opinion, than offensive tackle. I think it's a lot deeper at this point in time. Like, there's good tackles past the first round, but comparatively to the defensive tackles, I think if you're going to choose one or over the other, like it was, again, I'll bring up the Chargers again. What would have been, so the Chargers obviously went Joe Alt, Ladd McConkey, first 2 rounds. So what if the Chargers went Malik Neighbors? Is the gap between Neighbors and McConkey closer or greater than the gap between Joe Alt and the next best tackle that the Chargers could have taken at whatever pick they ended up picking McConkey at? So if you take Graham here, is the gap between Graham and the next best defensive tackle, whoever that may be in your eyes, greater or less than the gap between Armin Membo and the tackle you would take later in the draft? That's where you got to weigh it up here. That's where it's going to get a little bit interesting. And what I've seen on Twitter is the Jaguars, this is why I brought up the Chargers again, because fans on Twitter, like, the Jaguars already have 2 tackles. Walker Little, Anton Harrison. Anton Harrison, remember, was a former first-round draft pick from Oklahoma. But they're starting caliber. You can upgrade on those. Like, this is why the Chargers, again, the Los Angeles Chargers going into the draft last year, obviously had Rashawn Slater, one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL. When healthy, but that's the big question. When he was healthy, but no one ever seemed to know when he was healthy. But people on Twitter be like, well, they have Trey Pipkins. But you're not going to sit here and tell me you're not going to take a tackle at 5 because you have Walker Little. That's not how this works. Like, you're not going to tell me you're going to pass on Joe because you have Trey Pipkins. That's not, no. That sounds so stupid, especially in hindsight. Offensive tackle, if you have a chance to upgrade, offensive tackle is a position where you cannot be scared to upgrade. Because it makes everything else go. And one thing Trevor Lawrence has not had throughout his entire career in the NFL is consistency. And Membo, I think, would provide that consistency. They did bring in Pat McCarry from Baltimore, which I think is a very good get at guard. But if you're content with going, we have 2 starting capable tackles, then fine. You can go a different direction. And if that's the direction they end up going, Mason Graham's not a bad option. I'm not saying you're going like bash them because it would take Mason Graham. But if you want to protect Trevor Lawrence, get the best out of Trevor Lawrence, with Liam Cohen being an offensive-minded coach, I know he came from Tampa where they established the defensive line and stuff like that, taking a tackle at 5 would be my personal pick, I guess, for better or worse. Because I think that's just a position. Again, the gap between Membo and the tackle you would take in the next round, is it greater or is it bigger or smaller than the gap between Mason Graham and the next defensive tackle you would take? Because really, you could make both of them are top 10 players. I think Mason Graham is a better overall prospect, but it's just a very complicated conversation the Jaguars are going to have to figure out. But either way, they're taking either Mason Graham or one of the tackles, whether it be Will Campbell or Armin Membo. I have Membo going here. A lot of people are talking about him rising up draft boards a lot. If he doesn't go here, he'll go to the Jets at 7. He's not falling past 7, especially with the Jets need at right tackle. They have Olu Fashanu at left tackle. Morgan Moses again went to the New England Patriots. You have a massive gap at right tackle. So Membo would be that perfect option there at right tackle for the Jets. But if he doesn't make it past Jacksonville, then you're going to have an whole other problem. But Membo going to Jacksonville at 5. The Raiders at 6, Ashton Jeanty. Apparently, John Spytek, the GM of the Raiders, his kid threatened him if they don't take Jeanty. Not saying that's going to lock Jeanty in there, but Pete Carroll, throughout his time at USC, his time with the Seahawks, their teams were built by the run. I know he had great defense and stuff like that. He's a defensive-minded guy, which all the more reason why Jeanty makes sense here. Like, Lendell White and Reggie Bush. Why did I blank on Reggie Bush and not Lendell White? And Marshawn Lynch at Seattle. Like, they did sign Raheem Mostert this offseason, but he's 32 at this point in time. Jeanty's a difference maker. Again, top 5 player in the NFL draft this year. If you want difference makers and you want to establish that running attack, if you're as a defensive-minded head coach, Jeanty, I think, is the most, like, next to Cam Ward, if that's to be believed, next to Cam Ward, Ashton Jeanty feels like the most, like, close to a lock pick we have in the draft. I could be very wrong about that, but that's just how I feel at this point in time. The Jets at 7, I have them going Tyler Warren. They just need weapons. They need offensive line help, obviously. Will Campbell's obviously an option here. I had him go in their mock draft 1.0. And Armin Membo, I think, is the dream pick for the Jets because that right tackle spot's that brutal. But Tyler Warren, he's going to be a top 10 pick. And I'll talk about the team that I think he might go to if not the Jets. But the Tyler Warren, 6'6", like 260 pounds. He can do so many different things. He's not just a tight end, he's just a football player. He wears number 44 because of John Riggins. John Riggins obviously played for the Jets, obviously more known for playing in Washington, but he played for the Jets as well. Like, Tyler Conklin went out to the LA Chargers this offseason. Aaron Glenn's coming in from Detroit where they had Sam Laporta. Not saying Laporta and Tyler Warren are the exact same players, but he's just a football player. The Jets need football players. They need players. They need skilled players. They need difference makers. I think Tyler Warren is a difference maker and can be with this team if they take him at 7. Again, if Membo's not there. If Membo's there, they're going to take him. But moving on to number 8, the Panthers, Jalen Walker. I've heard people talking about him going number 4 to the Patriots. How real that is, I have absolutely no clue. But Daniel Jeremiah had him going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, I don't think there's... This one, again, feels pretty safe. He's a Carolina native, can play both linebacker and edge rusher. It's kind of conflicting on where people really see him playing at the next level. Because he's not, like, got the length that people look for in edge rusher. He's like 6'2". Like, he's not necessarily like your prototypical edge rusher, but he's so disruptive. He's so explosive. And the Panthers, like we talk about the Jets, just needing playmakers. The Panthers ranked dead last in like almost every single defensive category last year. They need playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Sure, Mason Graham would be a nice fit in this defense as well because he's a great player. But Jalen Walker can just wear so many different hats, and that scares some people out there. But this isn't like Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons played so many different positions. Jalen Walker gives you inside linebacker skills while also being able to get after the quarterback on the edge. Like, that's a lot different than what Isaiah Simmons was doing at Clemson. And I see that comparison a lot. Like, oh my God, we scared that we can't draft him because what if he's Isaiah Simmons again? Well, he's not. They're not the same player. So, Panthers at 8, I think Jalen Walker makes the most sense. The Saints at 9, right? Tackle makes a lot of sense here. Tackle makes a lot of sense. Will Campbell, someone I toyed with a lot here. He's from Louisiana, played at LSU. Will Campbell's draft stock's very interesting because he could go anywhere from about 4 to 10. And I don't really know if I could sit back and go like, oh yeah, that's a bad spot for him. Like, I just don't know what the league is really feeling about Will Campbell. If you're speaking from me, I think Will Campbell's freaking awesome. I watched a lot of him watching Garrett Nussmeier this year. I think Will Campbell is freaking awesome at tackle. Like, you could say he could kick inside the guard. I think either way you're going to have an elite offensive lineman there. And for the Saints, if you look at Mickey Loomis's draft history, he's done a good job at drafting offensive linemen early. Like, there was one year, I don't remember when exactly you could point to for this, but there was a stretch where the entire Saints offensive line, I think it might even be the same now, was all drafted by the Saints with early draft picks. Like, you look at Trevor Penning was a first-round draft pick. Talisi Fuaga was a first-round draft pick. Ryan Ramczyk was a first-round draft pick, but we're just toying with retirement. So that's where the Will Campbell thing would come in. But then you look at Andres Pete, Cesar Ruiz. Eric McCoy was a second-round pick, but still, they're one of their earlier picks of the draft. He might have been their first pick in the draft was him. Like, they just addressed the offensive line. So if he went Will Campbell here, it wouldn't shock me because Trevor Penning's future is in question. And if Ramczyk's retiring, or toying with the retirement, he's on a 1-year deal even if he isn't retiring. You might as well have that contingency plan there. But the Saints' need at corner is massive. Massive. They traded Marshawn Lattimore to Washington in the middle of last season. They do also have, this is a big caveat here, is that, where is he? Terry Joseph. They hired him as the pass game coordinator for the defense. For those of you who don't know who Terry Joseph is, he was Texas's defensive backs coach for the past however many years. Jahdae Barron is somebody that's been steamrolling up draft boards recently, and it's not anything to do with his talent. Everybody's always considered him, or at least most people consider him a top 15 player in this draft, but the need for corner kind of varies, and the question mark surrounding like Will Johnson makes it very intriguing to see where someone like Jahdae Barron would go. Because he's not as big as Will Johnson. He's 5'11", but he can play that nickel spot. He can play on the outside. I've seen some people talking about him being like a Rondé Barber type corner. Jim Thorpe Award winner this past season. Yeah, the connections in the NFL draft can be a monstrous thing. Monstrous thing. They can carry so much weight. And I know he's the pass game coordinator on defense, but that's still, you're gonna ask the people in your organization what you think about these players. If you have any connections with any of the players that are going to get drafted, guess what? You're probably going to get interviewed about said player. And I'm sure Terry Joseph has been interviewed countless times by Jahdae Barron. And with Jahdae Barron winning the Jim Thorpe Award this past year, while Texas made it all the way to the College Football Playoff semifinal, I'm pretty sure Terry talking pretty highly about Jahdae Barron. And you could make an argument again that Will Campbell would be the smarter pick here. It's the more Mickey Loomis-esque pick than Jahdae Barron, but I think that connection could weigh really heavy here, and the Saints need to have a massive need at corner. Like if you're ranking their biggest needs, corner is probably number one on that list. So I would have him going here, and then Will Campbell. Don't worry, I don't have him falling too much further. I have him going number 10 to the Chicago Bears. This pick, I listened to Ben. I saw a lot of videos from Ben Johnson today. And I always try to like find what head coaches are saying, especially around this time. Head coaches, GMs, more so head coaches, because head coaches, especially young ones, new head coaches, they're a lot more free-flowing with how they talk about the NFL draft rather than the old heads. They're like, I'm not going to tell you anything. Or don't even talk about the draft in general. But Ben Johnson was pretty vocal about the draft, and he said something where I was like, we're in a position, I'm speaking from Ben Johnson, we're in a position to where we don't need to draft based off need. I think James Gladstone said something similar to Jacksonville. Like, you don't need to draft off need. That's a good feeling to have. You can draft the best player available. Like, you still have holes in your roster, but you're not going solely based off need. Like the Patriots at 4, they need a left tackle. But would you draft left tackle or would you draft Travis Hunter? That's the question there. But you don't need to draft off need. And right now the Bears, they did a really good job at addressing needs in free agency. You look at the moves they made on the interior offensive line. You look at some of the moves they made on the defensive line as well. Like, their two biggest problem areas going into the offseason, the offensive line and defensive line, have been addressed pretty well. They still need to get worked on. Like, I could really see, like with Dennis Allen coming in as the defense coordinator, they're going to need big, physical defensive linemen, edge rushers, all that stuff. Shedeur Sanders makes a bunch of sense for the Chicago Bears here. A ton of sense here. Like, his potential and ceiling is ridiculous. I would not be shocked at all if the Bears went for Shedeur Sanders. But you look at the offensive line for the Bears. Braxton Jones is the only one on there where I have major question marks about. And it's the exact same thing I brought up with the Jaguars, the exact same thing I brought up with the Chargers. Like, Braxton Jones is going to have a lot of fans with the Bears. And what I find it funny about the Bears and Bears fans on social media, and this is not all Bears fans, obviously, but like when someone says they need to replace somebody, then they become like this great player that no one's ever seen before, and there's no reason to replace him. Justin Fields was that last year or 2 years ago. Like, Justin Fields has never been a great player for the Chicago Bears, but the way some people talked about him was like, oh my God, he's right there. He's not. He's really not. He's fine. Like, he's an NFL quarterback, yes, but he's not like a franchise starting quarterback. Maybe he is that with the Jets. I don't know. Doubt it, but who knows? Braxton Jones is a fine left tackle. He battled injuries last year, had an ankle injury. I saw a video 2 days ago, I believe it was, where he was walking around without a boot on, which I think is a good step, but I saw some people comment it looks like drop foot. My grandma has drop foot. That's not a great thing to have. And he's in the final year of his contract. Like, Trey Pipkins with the Chargers is now the backup on the entire offensive line, because they just signed Mekhi Becton as well. Like, Braxton Jones might be fine, but if you feel you can upgrade it, why would you pass on Will Campbell if he's sitting right there? Because as good as you think Braxton Jones is, I can promise you, I have higher hopes for Will Campbell. And if the Bears feel the same way, then I would draft Will Campbell. I wouldn't even really think twice about it. If I'm the Bears, Will Campbell's the number one player on my board. That's how I would look at it. But when I talk about, listen to what Ben Johnson said today, a player that he kept bringing up, and he was talking to Dennis Allen about this too, the defensive coordinator, is Tyler Warren. So let's say hypothetically, the Jaguars get Mason Graham, the Jets take Armin Membo, the Saints take Will Campbell, and you're at 10. My guess would be Tyler Warren's the pick. Like, for how much he was talking about Tyler Warren, he brought up Jahmyr Gibbs, because they were like, oh, Jahmyr Gibbs was not drafted at 12 because he was running back. Jahmyr Gibbs was drafted because he was a playmaker and a difference maker. Tyler Warren is a difference maker. Tyler Warren is a football player, as we brought up before with the Jets. So if not Will Campbell, if Tyler Warren's there, I would not be shocked at all if he was the pick there. I would not be shocked by that at all. But that would make things very interesting on draft day. And then number 11, the 49ers, Mason Graham, this felt wrong to do. It really did. But Mason Graham, from what I've seen, and it's not my personal opinion about this, because mock drafts are not my personal opinion. It's about what I think the team will do. So I guess it's somewhat derived in my personal opinion, because it's my personal opinion about what I think the team will do. But there were some reports that teams were a little skeptical on Mason Graham. He came into the combine 24 pounds underweight, or lower than what he was listed at. He only did the bench press as well. I haven't seen anything from Michigan's pro day. I don't know if it's happened yet. But he's too good of a player to fall this far. He just is. It's just simple science at this point. The tape says he's a top 4 player in this draft. Hell, you might even say top 3, depending on how you want to view Ashton Genty in there. He is a damn good football player. Ceiling-wise, he might not have the ceilings of other players in this draft class, but he's better than 99% of the players in this draft class. And the 49ers, they have made a lot of moves to shed cap space to try and gear up for Brock Purdy's contract extension, which Lord knows what that's going to look like. But the defensive line was hit hard. Malik Collins is gone. Javon Hargrave's gone. Leonard Floyd's gone. The 49ers need help on the defensive line. They also need help in the secondary. Travarius Ward left. Hufanga left. You have needs there as well. So if the draft went how I said it would, so let's say the hypothetical mock draft, which I always love this because it happens every single time I release a mock draft. It's like, oh my God, I hate this mock draft. But prior to, it's like, oh my God, I love this mock draft. Right when you post it, you love it. When you get done with it, you love it. But when the day gets on and you're sitting back and looking at it, you're like, man, I hate this draft. So I would look at it right now, potentially. Let's say Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, Armand Membo, Jalen Walker, Will Campbell, Tyler Warren, Jahdae Barron. And then the Cowboys receiver, whichever one you want to have there. That would be my updated one right now. If I if I made a mock draft for the we'll get to that shortly, but I can't completely scrap this thing right now. But Mason Graham in San Francisco just felt wrong. It did, but based on the reports I was seeing this past week, that's what kind of made sense. But he's way too good to go at 12 or 11. Sorry, way too good. So that will just be rain to see. And then the Cowboys at 12, I had to go in Ted McMillan, just getting a wide receiver. You could go either Matthew Golden or Ted McMillan. I think either one will be fine there. I just put McMillan because of his size. I think it would complement CeeDee Lamb very nicely. I might say Matthew Golden's better. I might. It's very fit. I'm very torn on these two. I would probably lean Matthew Golden, but McMillan's size, athleticism, former volleyball player, I think that would make a lot of sense for the Cowboys with what they have at receiver already. But Matthew Golden, for what he did at Texas, what he did at the Combine as well. And what was funny is you never see his 4.28 speed on tape, but you didn't need to. This is not what he was asked to do. So it just interesting conversation on Twitter in regards to that. Dolphins at 13, Nick Eamon-Warry. I struggled with this one a lot. The past few mock drafts have had Kelvin Banks from Texas going here because they need help on the offensive line, especially with Teron Armstead's future in question. But the closer we get, the more it's they probably are going to lean safety here. Both Javon Holland and Jordan Poyer are gone. Javon Holland went up to the Giants. So it's either between Malachi Starks and Nick Eamon-Warry. These are the top two guys pretty much separated themselves, and Xavier Watts is the next one in there from Notre Dame. So now it's about what you want in a safety. Because Malachi Starks and Nick Eamon-Warry are not the same safety at the slightest. Nick Eamon-Warry is a physical specimen. 6'3", 220 pounds, dominated the Combine, can play nickel, can play safety, can play linebacker. He will hit you. He is athletic. He can move all across the field. If you want that kind of safety, he's your guy. Malachi Starks is more fluid. Malachi Starks is better in coverage, especially guarding the deep routes. Malachi Starks is also playing nickel, but he also plays the free high safety. So it's just a matter of what you want. And when I was trying to figure this out, Weaver, the defense coordinator for the Dolphins, came from Baltimore with Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton and Nick Eamon-Warry are not the same player. I would like to say that. They're similar builds, but they're not the same players. And then Shed, who's the assistant defensive backs coach, he played with Cam Chancellor in Seattle. And Cam Chancellor has been somebody that Nick Eamon-Warry has been compared to. And was actually coached by the same guy who coached Cam Chancellor while Chancellor was at Virginia Tech. So I ended up going with Eamon-Warry here because the Dolphins need help at safety. They signed a couple safeties this offseason. None of them really have a ton of experience starting. I think Ashton Davis is the only one that has a few years under his belt. He has 1 year starting, but he's been in the league for a few years. So I went with Eamon-Warry, but Starks there, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Colston Loveland. I think that writes itself there, but they just need to help Anthony Richardson out. Falcons, Jihad Campbell, linebacker. But as he's self-proclaimed, he's a do-everything style player, Swiss Army knife of a player, got recruited as an edge rusher, can play linebacker, can play edge. Falcons need playmakers on defense. Like they're going to do everything in their power to not draft an edge rusher. Jihad Campbell can play edge. I saw something the other day. They've never drafted a Georgia player in the first round, which I think is crazy and doesn't sound real. But Jihad Campbell's one of the best players in this draft. He's at 15. I wouldn't be shocked if the Falcons took him. Cardinals' Will Johnson, compared by some to James Bradbury from Philly, who Jonathan Gannon coached well in Philadelphia. The Cardinals do need help in the secondary. I think Jonathan Gannon wants to continue to improve his defense. They signed Dalvin Tomlinson. They signed Josh Sweat this offseason. I think Will Johnson would slot right in there. Mike Green to Cincinnati. I don't know what they're doing with Trey Hendrickson. I have no freaking clue. But Sam Hubbard's gone. They did re-sign B.J. Hill, which I think is a nice little keep there for the Bengals defensive line. But you need another defensive edge rusher apart from Trey Hendrickson. Regardless if Hendrickson's there or not, I would still draft an edge rusher, and Mike Green would be my next best guy there. The Seattle Seahawks, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, they need help in the interior offensive line. Laken Tomlinson left for Houston this offseason. They have done absolutely nothing to address the interior offensive line. Mike McDonald and co. pretty much fired Ryan Grubb because the passing game was so much better than the run offense. And Mike McDonald's a defensive-minded head coach who came from Baltimore and Michigan, two places that ran the ball a lot more than they passed it, or where the run offense was their main focal point of their offense. And I think improving that interior offensive line might be priority number one for Seattle. And Gray Zabel being right there would make sense for Seattle at 18. The Bucs, I have Malachi Starks. Jordan Whitehead's not going to be on the team this year. They have a hole at safety. Donovan Ezeraku was a guy I really toyed with here. He fits what Light really looks for in those edge rushers as well. They did sign Hassan Reddick, who prior to last year had, I think, 4 straight 11-plus sack seasons. But last year, the whole Jets fiasco, I don't even know how to start that thing. But Malachi Starks, I think, would be a very solid pick here for the Bucs. Fill that safety spot. Omarion Hampton with the Broncos at 20 picks for itself. Kenneth Grant from Michigan to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. Mike Tomlin, in my history of following the Steelers in the draft process, which is not as closely as a lot of Steelers fans, obviously, but Mike Tomlin early on in the process kind of gravitates towards a specific position group, and then you can kind of pinpoint where they're looking. Like, he was around the defensive tackles at the Senior Bowl a lot. I'm not saying that they're guaranteed to draft defensive tackles. They still don't have a quarterback. It's Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson right now. Aaron Rodgers is the main guy they're looking at, but Lord knows when that's going to get over the table. So Kenneth Grant at 21, probably the next best defensive tackle in this class following Mason Graham. Then we got Matthew Golden, the Chargers at 22. Re-signed Mike Williams this offseason, but that's not a guy you're going to be confident in going like, oh yeah, we're done getting weapons for Justin Herbert. You got Ladd McConkey, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston, and Tyler Conklin. Yeah, get someone like Matthew Golden in the door. 23, the Packers, Shamar Stewart. He just feels like a Packer. He does. The Packers in the first round usually target like really toolsy players versus college production. Like that's what they tend to value more, is that prototypical size. Like Shamar Stewart's an athletic freak. We obviously saw him tear up the combine. He had 1.5 sacks last year at Texas A&M. But I think the Packers, with how they view these types of players, like Rashawn Gary, who they drafted, I believe, 12th overall in 2019, he was not like this double-digit sack guy while at Michigan. And now he's one of the better edge rushers in football. Like that's what the Packers tend to target in the first rounds. They look for those athletic traits, and Shamar Stewart is that to a freaking T. So I've got him going to Green Bay at 23. Same with Lucas Van Ness as well from Iowa. Was a backup while at Iowa. Played a lot, but they looked at the athletic traits rather than what he actually did as regards to like total production. Great player at Iowa, but like in regards to total production, that wasn't the main cogs there. Vikings Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, corner. Safety was a big option with Cam Bynum leaving, but I did see a quote from Kwesi, or an article about Kwesi talking about like safeties are the hardest positions to judge in the draft process, and he might still feel spurned by the whole Lewis Cine situation we talked about before when they traded back with the Lions, took Jameson Williams, a couple picks before Kyle Hamilton was off the board. like that probably doesn't sit too well with him, so he might stay away from safety for a little bit, especially from Georgia or the SEC in general. And corner, I would say, is probably their biggest need. They did re-sign Byron Murphy, which I think is a very nice get, or re-signing, but you need to keep fortifying that secondary, get some younger pieces in there. And Maxwell Hairston had a very good combine as well. Not the biggest dude in the world, only around 5'11", but hey, I think he's the next best corner after Will Johnson, so he goes 24. Texans, Kelvin Banks, they need offensive line help. I know they've made some moves. They traded Laramie Tunsil. They traded Kenyon Green. They brought in Laken Tomlinson. They brought in, who else did they bring in? Cam Robinson, Ed Ingram, Trent Brown. They brought all those guys in. Most of them to 1-year deals or 2-year deals. So you're not going to, those aren't your long-term guys. Kelvin Banks was a 3-year starter at Texas, was a captain. Feels like a kind of guy Nick Caserio would target in the draft. The Rams at 26, Trey Amos from Ole Miss, another Ole Miss product. I know a lot of people may suspect like Jackson Dart or something, but Amos is very fluid. 6'1" corner, about 195 pounds. Has played at a few different schools. Played at Louisiana, Alabama, Ole Miss. Had 13 pass breakups last year. He's not like the most twitchy guy out there, but he has great ball instincts. He reacts to the ball really, really well. And he's, again, very fluid. I think he'd fit what the Rams want to do. They brought back Akila Witherspoon. Still need to add more pieces there. Ravens, Derek Harmon from Oregon, sorry. I saw someone say Derek Harmon plays like an AFC North player. And the Ravens, a lot of their history, which is not a long history, but a lot of their history comes from the defensive line. And Michael Pierce just retired this offseason. I think the Ravens would like to add some new blood to that defensive line, and Derek Harmon could be that guy. Then we got the Lions, Tyler Booker. Kevin Zeitler went down to Tennessee this offseason. We've talked about the importance of drafting colleges you're familiar with. You look at the Lions in previous years, whether it's Brian Branch, Terrion Arnold, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, drafting players from a specific college and teams you're familiar with is not something that should go unnoticed in this process. Not saying like they only can draft players from Alabama in the first round, but if a player like Tyler Booker falls right into your lap and he just happens to have played for Alabama, it makes a lot of sense because he fits that physical mold that Dan Campbell likes on his offensive line and be an instant not upgrade, but the instant replacement for Kevin Zeitler. Maybe an upgrade in the long term. 29 Washington, Michael Williams. Again, very athletic guy. Played most of last season injured. I think he had an ankle injury or something like that. I think he injured at week 1 and never really fully recovered from it, but kept playing, which I can respect a ton of. But I don't know where to go with a lot of these edge rushers, mainly Shamar Stewart and Michael Williams, because you got to look at the ceilings, you got to look at the production, like all that great stuff. I don't know what to really view these guys as. And Washington, they need edge rushers. Like right now, Cleveland Farrell is lined up to start for them. I wouldn't feel comfortable with Cleveland Farrell being one of my top edge rushing options. And Michael Williams, I think, would fill that need. He'd be a really nice addition to Dan Quinn's defense, and give them another boost on the defensive side of the ball rather than signing a bunch of old guys or veterans and stuff like that. So get some youth in there with Michael Williams. The Bills at 30, Landon Jackson from Arkansas. He just feels like a Bills player. He just does. He's a big dude, about 6'6", 200 or 6 foot. He was 6'6", 264 at the combine. He listed at 6'7", 280. Can play at the outside as a DN. Can play as a 3-tech as well. The Bills do a lot of rotating on the defensive line, and right now you look at Michael Hoyt, who's got a 6-game suspension. You got Larry Ogunjobi, who they also signed this offseason, who's got a 6-game suspension. With the amount of rotation that Buffalo's going to want to do, they have 10 picks in the draft, so a lot of picks to work with, but I don't know if that means a trade-up's on the cards or something, but it could very well be. That Vikings pick at 24 is like screaming, trade me, trade me, trade me. I don't know who's going to be that team that does it, but but Landon Jackson, again, big dude, tested well at the combine, has no real character concerns as far as I can tell, so he feels like a kind of guy that Bills would target early on in the draft. And 31, we got the Chiefs, Josh Simmons. I know they signed Jalen Moore from San Francisco, but I still don't feel confident enough in the Chiefs' offensive line, especially with Jawan Taylor still starting there consistently. Josh Simmons could play right, could play left tackle, either one. The Chiefs just need help in the O-line. And then finally, the Philadelphia Eagles, Donovan Ezeraku, 6'2", 247. It's not like the prototypical size for an edge rusher, but production for days, explosive, great athleticism, great bend, great arm length as well. Like, Tampa Bay is where I really wanted to put Ezeraku, but I ended up going down here to Philly, which I don't think the Eagles are complaining too much. He's a way too good of a player to fall all the way down to 32. But sometimes that's how the draft works out, where the Eagles just get a player, fall right into their lap at a pick where they should be long gone by. And the Eagles losing Josh Sweat, losing Mason Graham to retirement. Edge rusher is a big move. Losing Milton Williams to New England's also a big loss. So maybe they do go with like a Walter Nolan here to keep their rotation on the interior defensive line spots. But if Donovan Ezeraku's here, I can't really see a reality where they pass on him. I don't. At this point in time, I don't see where they would pass on him. But James Pierce would be an option there as well. Walter Nolan, we brought up before, who I think both those guys have first-round talents, but both of them have had some character concerns raised about them, so maybe that makes them fall to the first round. I don't know. But those guys are two guys that are too good to be on the outside looking in, if that makes sense. But that is Mock Draft 3.0. Make sure, again, to check that out on the LoganBlackmanShow.com. I would greatly appreciate that if you did. Go to the blog section on the website, and you'll find it there, or you can scroll down to the main page and find a link to there as well. And while we're on the topic, like, it's not a topic of the draft in particular, but about a specific position, it's the running back position. And the running back position is kind of in a weird spot recently where it went completely out of style for a little bit, and now it's back. Like, would you say the running back position is back? Is that the way you would use that or phrase that, is that it's back? Like, you go like, well, it never left. Well, it did for a little bit. Like, you look at the drafts from recent years where it was like, oh no, you can't draft a running back in the first round, or if they do, it's got to be really late in the first round. And there's varying success stories about players being worth the top picks or not worth the top picks. Like, you look at the last 10 years in the draft. You had Jonathan Brooks last year. He was the first running back taken. He was coming off a torn ACL. That tells you how bad last year's draft class was in regards to running backs. But Bucky Irving looks really good. In that. Bijan Robinson with the 8th pick. Then Breece Hall was 36. Najee Harris at 24. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 32. Josh Jacobs 24. Saquon Barkley 2. Leonard Fournette 4. Zeke 4. And Todd Gurley 10. The Todd Gurley thing is a sad story. I don't like that story. They got Leonard Fournette wearing a freaking Bills jersey. God dang. But the running back position in the draft is a very interesting position. Like, I brought up the ESPN thing before, but what do you call it? Mel Kiper has a rule where you do not draft running backs early in the draft. He has a very strict rule about that. Like, if you don't draft running backs early in the draft. So, like, they asked him, would you draft Ashton Jeanty 6? And he said no. Ashton Jeanty's the 4th best player on my board, but I'm not drafting him at 6 overall. Because it's about principle in the matter. Because most running backs in the league do better on their second team than they do on their first team. And this year's draft class, running back-wise, out of all the positions in the draft, you could make an argument to where the running back position is the most stacked position in the draft. It is. Like, I don't know if you, like, we talked about this earlier in the offseason, but this is a good year to need a running back. It's a good year to need a running back in the draft. It's a bad year to be a free agent running back. This is not the year to be a free agent running back because this draft class is so deep. Like, let me just read off some of the names for you. Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Cam Scadaboo, Dylan Sampson, DJ Giddens, Damian Martinez, Tutton from Virginia Tech, Ollie Gordon, RJ Harvey, Devin Neal, Trevor Etienne, Rashad Smith, Jalen Blue, Kyle Monangai. It just keeps going on and on. Khalil Mullings, LaQuint Allen, Raheem Sanders, Taj Brooks, Jordan James, Donovan Edwards. You could just keep going on and on and on about different running backs here. And you could say, there's, like, you rank the top 10 running backs in the NFL draft this year. How many of them are in the top 100 players of the draft in general? When's the last time we have a good amount of running backs in that spot in the NFL draft, having that many high-value running backs? Like, I've heard reports of that. There could be 3 running backs taken. That's Jeanty, Hampton, and Henderson. I've pretty much just accepted the fact that there's at least 2. At least. And that's Jeanty and Hampton. And right now, could be wrong, it seems pretty cemented that it's going to be the Raiders and Broncos that take these two running backs. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that, but that's what it kind of feels like at this point in time. Like, the Cowboys signed Javonte Williams this offseason, and they also brought in Miles Sanders. So I'm not saying that running back position is locked up for sure, but that's a later round process type thing. And this year, you can do that. You couldn't really afford to do that in some years. Like, sometimes you needed to draft a running back early. You just feel like you have to draft a running back early. But this year's so loaded. It just is. Like, the top 5 running backs in this draft class, in no particular order: Genty, Henderson, Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, and Caleb Johnson. You could make an argument for each one of those guys being first-round draft picks. I'm not saying that they are all guaranteed to be first-round guys or all should be first-round guys, but you can make a good argument for all 5 of those guys. Genty, fine. You could throw him out because everybody knows he's going in the first round. You don't really need to make an argument there. Hampton, you could maybe do the same thing. But you could make a solid case for each of those 5 guys in the first round. When is the last time we've said that about a running back class? When's the last time we've done that? Like, we've had running backs go late in the first round and then have a little splurge in the second round. They do the Clyde Edwards-Helaire draft. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, then DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor. Like, there was a little run of running backs, like, very quick, right, back to back. Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker was the same thing. Najee Harris, Travis Etienne went back-to-back picks in that year's draft. First-round guys, though. It varies from year to year. But this year's class feels a lot different than years gone by. And the reason I wanted to talk about the running back class in particular is because the Bills are in a little bit of a running back situation at this point in time, and that's with James Cook. The thing that's interesting here is that James Cook is still under contract. I would like to get that out of the way here. James Cook is under contract still. But he has been pretty vocal, I guess. He's not a very vocal person. I don't know if it's his agent telling him this, but if I'm him, I'm getting a new agent. Because James Cook's asking for $15 million a year. James Cook went he posted on Instagram or something, like Instagram Live thing, and $15 million is what he's asking for. I love James Cook. That's not happening. That is not happening. $15 million a year is not happening for James Cook. As good as he is, he is fantastic. I would say I can make a very good argument that he's I don't need to make an argument. He just is a top 10 running back in football. Like, the running backs I would say are definitely better than him. I'm saying definitely. So I'm not like saying like, oh, but you didn't bring up this guy. I'm saying definitely better than him. So you look at players like Saquon Barkley on the Philadelphia Eagles. You look at Derrick Henry on the Baltimore Ravens. Those guys are elite backs. Then you look at like Josh Jacobs with the Green Bay Packers, another one. You could bring up Nick Chubb when he's actually playing, was one of the best running backs in football, if not the best running back in football. Christian McCaffrey at San Francisco. Those are your guys that I would say, and Nick Chubb's even a question mark because he never plays. So Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, and Josh Jacobs based off last year. Those are the 4 best running backs in football right now. Unless I'm completely forgetting somebody. Like, Breece Hall is really good. You've got Nick Chubb again. You've got Joe Mixon down in Houston. Very solid running back. Travis Etienne, up and down, can be good. Tony Pollard's good. Isaiah Pacheco's good. James Conner, good running back. Kyron Williams, very good running back over there in LA. Kenneth Walker can be good. Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara on his days probably one of the best running backs in football. Bucky Irving down in Tampa Bay. DeAndre Swift, Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay, Jahmyr Gibbs top 5. I forgot about Jahmyr Gibbs. That's my bad. And then the Vikings, Aaron Jones, good running backs all the way around. So my top 5 backs in no particular order: McCaffrey, Henry, Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Jahmyr Gibbs. Those are my top 5 guys. And then we have conversations about everybody else. Like, James Cook in my opinion, is not far outside of that top 5. He's not. And you could think otherwise, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to die on this hill, but I would say he's for sure a top 10. How close he's to top 5, that's up for debate. But even then, I don't want to pay him $15 million a year. And what's crazy is that this offseason, the Bills were handing out extensions like candy, like trick-or-treat candy. Josh Allen got an extension. Christian Benford just got an extension. Khalil Shakir got an extension. Greg Rousseau got an extension. Terrell Bernard got an extension. These are all guys that were already actively on the roster. Not one of those guys went out to the media, or not to the media, but went on Instagram Live and tagged or pinned a top comment saying $15 million a year or a specific money amount. None of them did that. And they all got extensions for it. I'm not saying that was the reason they got extensions, but the Bills apparently are not talking to James Cook at this point in time about extension. And they don't need to. He's on the final. He's on a one. He's still got a year under his contract left. And the Bills don't need to do anything at this point in time. If he doesn't play, then that's a whole different kettle of fish that we'll get to once that bridge is crossed. I don't think it will come to that, but Brandon Beane said we're focused on the draft. And the guys that they got extended were guys that didn't post anything on social media and just were team-friendly guys. Like Christian Benford got a very team-friendly deal. Christian Benford's another one, top 10 cornerback in the league, but because he wears number 47, people look at him like, who's that? Never heard of him. There was a lot of the comment section on the post about Tim getting the extension. Which, Benford, you need to change that number, dude. That is ridiculous that you wear 47 to your top 10 corner in the league. That is diabolical. I hate it to my core. Absolutely hate it. But the James Cook thing is going to be a very interesting thing to watch because he's a very important part of this offense. Discounting Josh Allen, he's the most important player on that Bills offense. That he is that important to the success of this team. But $15 million a year. That. It makes things a little bit interesting, especially with the Bills' whole cap situation. So the Bills need to attack the draft, turn their attention to the draft. I agree with Brandon B. Just focus on the draft at this point in time. You don't need to do anything with James Cook. You don't have to do anything right now. I saw some people talking about trading him. Like, no, let's just let the pieces fall where they may at this point in time, and we'll accept the outcome. Because as great of a player as he is, and how great of a player he'll be somewhere else if he does end up going somewhere else, that's out of our control. I just want him to do well this year. If he does play for the Bills, which obviously I hope that. And yeah, we'll move from there. But as of right now, I'm not too concerned about it. Like my friend Justin, who's been on the show before, he texted me right before I started recording. He's like, how do you feel about James Cook leaving? It's like, well, I don't think he's leaving now, but I think he needs a new agent. And I don't think he's going to get paid $15 million a year from the Bills. I've seen some people talk about run him into the ground this year and let him go somewhere else. Like, I don't want to go that far. But James Cook, again, is a top 10 back in the league, and I understand the fact he wants to get paid like a top 10 back in the league, but $15 million is a little bit steep. Like, I'm not mad at James Cook for wanting money. I'm not mad at that at all. I'm not mad about how he's gone about this whole situation either. It doesn't really bother me all too much, to be 100% honest with you. Like, I'm not freaking out about James Cook not signing a deal. That's why I'm like, he's under contract for a year. Like, I focus on the draft. Then we'll figure out the contract situation as the season goes on. Like, I'm at the point right now, and I said this last year too, I'm at the point where the Bills have Josh Allen, so I'm fine. I can stomach pretty much any move that the Bills do because Josh Allen, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, I'm going to be a little bit more strict with because they don't have that star player there. Like, yes, Benford, Bernard, Rousseau even, those are great players. Good players, great players. Like Taron Johnson, Matt Milano, when he's actually playing football, are awesome players. Ed Oliver, when he's actually on it, is an awesome player. The offense, as long as Josh Allen's there, things will click. Just naturally. I did see a report today that they were thinking about trading for Jordan Addison or Chris Olave, which I'd be for. I wouldn't be too upset about that. But at this point in time, as long as Josh Allen's there, they could have anybody out wide. They could have anybody at running back. And I do not agree with the sentiment that, oh, they have Ray Davis, let James Cook go. Like they're the same running backs. Like that's a little ridiculous that people are saying that, but oh my goodness. But that contract situation is definitely going to be something to look out for. And this running back draft class, though, like I said, it's a good year to need a running back in the draft. It's a bad year to be a free agent running back. James Cook's not a free agent, so we'll have to wait and see on that whole situation. But yeah, tight ends are also very deep class. Defensive tackles very deep. Edge rushers are always deep. Like the offensive line, they're going to have some deep spots. Quarterback is obviously not that deep. Wide receiver, comparatively to years past, is not as deep as it has been. But there's still some ballers in the receiver class as well. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for you today on this Wednesday edition of the Logan Blackman Show. I do hope you enjoyed. If you didn't, I still apologize. Try to be right next time. Oh, I did. This is one more thing. A Bears fan, hot take. So he screenshotted a TikTok. In another world, Bryce Young did little better his rookie season, and this trio exists. It was DJ Moore, or Justin Fields, sorry. Oh yeah, DJ Moore, Justin Fields, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Guy said, the quote, he screenshotted that TikTok, posted on Twitter, said, hot take, this guy's right. I wish we had Fields, DJ Moore, and Marvin Harrison Jr. instead of Caleb and Rome. And then parentheses, who both kind of look like busts right now. So he's a Bears fan, but he didn't really watch the Bears this year. That's what I took from that. And I know it's rage bait, but still, like, that's what we're doing to get attention at this point in time. Justin Fields is not better in any realm apart from athletic ability than Caleb Williams. Like, it's just not. Like, we don't need to keep going down this rabbit hole of Justin Fields. It's going to be every single year till the Bears make the playoffs. It just is. Like, Caleb Williams went X amount of weeks without throwing an interception, but he's not better than Justin Fields. He's better than Justin Fields. And Rome Odunze, we're going to talk about Rome Odunze being a bust. Again, I hate this whole like mantra that we're living in now. We're like, if they don't dominate year one, they're a bust. Like Rome Odunze put up 734 yards receiving last year with 3 touchdowns. Caleb Williams had 20 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions last year. Like, how are we talking about a bust here for anybody? Like Marvin Harrison Jr., he put up 885 yards receiving when he was the number 1 receiver with Kyler Murray as his quarterback, who's not a rookie. And Rome Odunze put up, 734 is the third option? That's pretty solid. I think we're reaching a little bit when we're talking about, he looked like a bust low-key last year. He just didn't. And the last thing I want to talk about here, this was kind of funny. We took a big swing and a miss. We talked about Deshaun Watson. The Browns talked about Deshaun Watson. The tush push thing. Can we stop talking about the tush push? Why are we making this illegal? Why is that a conversation that we're actually having about making it illegal? So are we going to tell Baltimore that they can't run the ball with Lamar Jackson because they're very good at it? Not every team could do it as good as the Ravens. No one else has a quarterback like that. Lamar Jackson can't run anymore. That's what it sounds like. Like, if you're not, any team can do the tush push. It's not their fault that one, can't stop it, and 2, can't run it as efficiently as they can. I know the Bills sure as hell can't. They only run to the left side. That's all they do. Like, ban a play that is just a quarterback sneak? So we're banning quarterback sneaks in general? Like, every team can do that. Just because one specific team is better than everybody else does not mean you need to ban the play. That is so ridiculously stupid. So again, ban Lamar Jackson running because no other team in the NFL, barring the Commanders, can do that. The Eagles were the best team in the tush push. The Bills are probably the second best because they have a 6'5", 250-pound quarterback. The Ravens are right there with Lamar Jackson. Well, he can't run because that's not fair. Because we have, I don't know, who's a quarterback that I could use as an example? I got 1,000 quarterbacks just spinning into my head right now. We got Russell Wilson. Like, he can't do what Lamar Jackson did. He can't run anymore. So, who cares? You're not banning the tush. That's one of the dumb. Packers, screw you for trying to ban that, you bunch of pussies. That's what you are. That's all I've got for you today. That's all I've got. The Chiefs haven't run a quarterback sneak in 3 years when Patrick Mahomes dislocated his kneecap against the Broncos. I remember it was 3 years ago, but it was around that time. They haven't run a QB sneak once. They've run pretty damn fine without a QB sneak. You don't need to run it if you don't want to. Like, that is the biggest crock of shit I've seen in the past couple weeks. We're trying to ban the play. Shut up. Please. Shut up. Okay, that's all I've got for you today. Now I'm pissed. That's all I've got for you today. I do hope you enjoyed. If you didn't, I sincerely apologize. Sorry about it. Next time, make sure to follow Logan Blackman Show on every single form of social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to both channels. The main channel, where we'll have like Mock Draft 3.0's videos up. The podcast channel, which some of you will be listening to right now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And make sure to check out the blog post on LoganBlackmanShow.com. Once again, hope you enjoyed. If you didn't, sincerely apologize. Try better next time, and I will see you guys later. Peace.